Hello everyone and welcome to the Redmen TV. It's the Liverpool Transfer Podcast. Today is Friday the 14th of June. I'm still joined by Chloe Bloxham and Dan Club to discuss the last week or so in terms of Liverpool transfer news, rumours, links, and as well we've been over on Twitter and asked some of you guys for some players you'd like us to talk about, and we'll get to those at the end of the show as well. Dan, let's make a start then. First news item relates to Leny Yoro of Lille. David Ornstein at time recording reported last night Liverpool and Man United are actively pursuing a deal to sign Leny Yoro from Lille. Liverpool and Man United see Madrid as the favourite, but are pushing hard for the 18-year-old centre-back, viewed as a unique market opportunity separate to other targets PSG keen to. Let's start. The general nuts and bolts of this one is Real Madrid are the favourites. It looks like the player's got his heart is set on getting to Madrid. If for some reason that deal doesn't go through, Liverpool and Man United have positioned themselves to potentially be the ones who jump in and try and get him next. It wouldn't be the first time that a player's moves fell through and he's gone somewhere else, but that's kind of how we're reading this, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, yeah. David Ornstein had me in the first half with that tweet, I won't lie to you. When I first started reading that, I was like, here we go, Liverpool, Leny Yoro, I'll have a little bit of that. And then, yeah, in the middle paragraph about Real Madrid being the favourites, ultimately, a lot of people, and rightfully so, will look at that situation and go, oh, here we go again, missing out to Real Madrid. Like, I've seen this play out a few times. And listen, that may well be how this ends up. But for me, I look at it in an ever so slightly different manner, because 18 years old, supremely talented, like got the world at his feet. His ceiling is incredibly, incredibly high. Looks like he's destined to become one of the elite centre-backs in world football. And albeit it could well be sort of really, really frustrating that Liverpool do enter this race, if you like, and do ultimately miss out to Real Madrid. I think just positioning yourself in behind that and saying, listen, we know where you want to go, but if for whatever reason that doesn't materialise, it doesn't happen, we'll be the ones to come and get you. I don't see that as necessarily a negative. You've got to do that sometimes. The fact we're keen on him and entering the race even is something within itself, and nobody likes to play second fiddle to anybody in any walk of life, but Real Madrid right now have a supreme pulling power. Once again, reigning European champions. It's a difficult sort of circle to square as a Liverpool fan to think of us not being the main attraction in world football, but Real Madrid be Real Madrid, you know what I mean? So it's tough, but yeah, I listen, Leny Yoro is a wonderful player, as I've already sort of referenced, and if Liverpool were to see a glimmer of hope and a sort of a chink in the armour of that deal, we need to be all over it. So the fact that we are entering it and David Ornstein has suggested that is a positive for me. Yeah,
I suppose, Chloe, as well, it's worth mentioning, at the time, I don't know if this ever really been confirmed, but there was talk that when Liverpool signed Alisson, it was because Real Madrid didn't sign him, and then he chose to go to Liverpool. But again, not really at that verified, but it was at a time where they were maybe looking for a goalie and they went elsewhere. It isn't the worst thing in the world if to get, we'd all love in the ideal world to go for the player to go, I want to go to Liverpool all the time, that was my only choice, etc, etc. That isn't always how it works. Players always, you might end up, well, I wanted to go there, but now I'm going here. It can still work out. Like, again, if for whatever reason, I saw a report saying Madrid aren't exactly comfortable paying the fee that Lille wants for Leny Yoro. So, listen, if that deal does fall through, I don't think it should be a knock on Liverpool's attempts to get him. If they think he's good enough to go and get the deal done.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Liverpool try and get Caicedo and that didn't really work out the way we wanted it. But if, Chelsea hadn't been able to come up with the money and Liverpool would have signed them, the majority of Liverpool fans, take yourselves back 12 months ago before we knew how crap he had of a season. We'd have all been absolutely made up. We wouldn't have cared that Chelsea were his favourite side, as long as he then played for us and played well. And it's the same. Leny Yoro is just a really boss centre-half. We're in the market for a centre-half. I think the fee was supposedly like 42 mil. He's got 12 months left on his contract and Lille will want to sell him for that reason. They want to make some sort of money. The problem is, I've seen this book before. I've seen it with Tchouaméni, where we were interested in him and he got off to Real Madrid. I saw it in Jude Bellingham, where it felt like we had a little bit of a chance, and that got completely closed with him going to Real Madrid. So yeah, it's one of them where I'd love to have him, and I think he's class, and it's good that Liverpool are there, but he will hold on for as long as he can in this transfer window until Real Madrid do give him a definite sign.
I suppose as well, Dan, if there's one club in the world that you really don't want to get into a transfer battle with, it's Real Madrid. Make no bones about it. we have lost players that we wanted to sign because they've gone to Real Madrid. Chloe's mentioned too many, obviously, Jude Bellingham, the second one there, and they are the club in the world that pretty much every kid wants to, or dreams of playing for, other than, again, a young Scouse lad, of course, who I'm guessing wants to play for Liverpool, but that's a tough one. Like, the only way it doesn't happen, and again, I saw Ian Doyle report in the Echo today that Real Madrid are looking to spend like 40 million euros on him, and Lille are demanding 60 million euros. That's actually quite a significant gap, especially in an era of financial fair play and UEFA regulations and whatever else is going on now. Listen, Real Madrid, I'm sure if they needed to find 10 million quid, they could find it, absolutely. But that feels like the sticking point here is that are Lille brave enough to stick to the guns? Because like Chloe mentioned, 12 months left in his contract. He can't afford to lose him for nothing. He won't want to do that. No. They're accepting he's going to go. I suppose if you're a Liverpool fan thinking, well, how doesn't the Madrid move develop so that we can get him? Maybe it just comes down to that asking price.
Yeah, that is the hope right now, I think, from a Liverpool perspective. The fact that they can't sort of come to an agreement on that. But I guess on the flip side of that as well, you both mentioned the contract situation there, and you're absolutely right to do so. If Lenny Yoro was to go to his club, we've seen this happen in transfer tales down the years as well, go to Lille and say, listen, my heart's set on Real Madrid, I'm absolutely desperate to go to Real Madrid, is there anything we can do? Can we meet in the middle in terms of his valuation? Again, come back to it, Lille aren't going to want to wait 6 months where we can just sign a pre-contract agreement with them anyway and walk away for nothing at the end of his contract. So listen, I'm not holding out much hope that we end up signing a player, because again, we've seen this before, Real Madrid often get whoever they want in world football. It's kind of the way it goes. And I suppose also from a Liverpool point of view, it's not a slight on us that we're entering the race, because it means entering the race for Tchouaméni, for Bellingham, for Leny Yoro now, for the absolute best in world football. Now, we're not too far removed from a time whereby Liverpool weren't doing that. We were scraping the barrel in certain transfer windows. So at least that's good, albeit, and no, it's not. We don't get signed a player necessarily all the time, but at least we're competing for the very, very best in Europe. So that can be viewed as a positive. But on Yoro, I'll come back to it. Unfortunately, I don't see the transfer fee being too much of a sticking point and too much of a hurdle that they can't cross, and which is really frustrating from our point of view. But again, if we're looking in that market, it's exactly the market we need to be looking in, basically.
And also, in terms of Real Madrid, you look at their attacking players, and it's like Rodrigo, they've got Vinicius Jr., they've got Mbappe now, potentially Erling Haaland in how many years' time? Well, they've got Endrick. You look at their midfield, and it's 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. It's your Tchouaméni, it's your Bellingham, it's your Camavinga, Valverde, like a bit of experience in Modric, but they've got Brahim Diaz in it. Like, they've got so many youngsters. Arda Güler, yeah. And then you look at the centre-backs and the full-backs. They've got Carvajal, who you'd assume they'd need a new right-back. They've got Ferland Mendy, who's young enough and is good enough. And then you look at the centre-backs, and it's Rudiger, who's boss. But then they've got an aging Alaba. They've got Nacho, who looks like he's going to be potentially leaving. So, like, of course, they're identifying Yoro because that's the area where they need it most, because the rest of their squad is ready for the next 10 years.
I suppose as well, Dan, it's worth mentioning, he's an 18-year-old kid. He made his debut for Lille when he was 16. Yeah. He's clearly been on if any player is playing 50 league games in any top flight at the age of 16, 17, the whole of Europe is watching. It just is. I don't care if you're 16 playing every game in the Premier League for Sheffield United, you are getting watched because you are a certain level of player. That's really difficult to do. So it's not like Liverpool have unearthed one here. Everyone's been aware of Leny Yoro, that he's been available for a while. We've heard his name linked with Liverpool for a bit. It's just always been a wonder if Liverpool are interested. I suppose to move it on slightly, the way the reporting is angled, both from actually Liverpool and Man United, but obviously we'll focus from a Liverpool point of view, is that this is separate to any other transfer business. This deal that Liverpool are interested in is for this specific player. It's a bit like an opportunity has presented itself. We are still looking for a centre-back regardless, but this is a kid who we think could be a superstar. We're going to just make a move for him. It isn't like Liverpool are desperate for that. I mean, it's worth mentioning Liverpool are in the market of centre-back, we know that, but either way, it just appears like Liverpool have identified a gem. If this lad was a left winger or a centre-forward or a goalie, or if he was that good, it feels like Liverpool would be making the move anyway for him. Yeah,
I 100% agree with you. It feels like he is that much of a talent, and obviously the contract situation plays into this as well. He's clearly available this summer to be signed, and all the top clubs in Europe, any club worth their salt in Europe, should be looking at someone of that calibre and that ilk and that potential, and Liverpool rank themselves in amongst that. So you're absolutely spot on. Doesn't really matter where he plays. And I actually think you made the point there about the amount of games, the amount of football he's played at such a tender age. That's one thing, but doing it as a centre-back as well is actually even more impressive, because you were number 10 or an attacker. Yes, it's still something, but it's ever so slightly easier. But to do it as a centre-half in Liga, which is, in and around the top 5 in Europe, that's something. So yeah, absolutely. I think this is just the type of deal, to coin an old phrase, you look a gift horse in the mouth, and if you see somebody of that quality available on the market, you can't not be at least in the conversation, and Liverpool have clearly put themselves in amongst that. I actually think, profile-wise, in terms of what this Liverpool squad needs, he actually isn't perfect in a mad way, because he's not left-footed. We've all probably sat around had different conversations about the desire and the want for a left-sided centre-back who can play a little bit left-back. Leny Yoro can't do that. So I come back to what I said a moment ago, it's just because he feels like he's on a trajectory, feels like he's destined to be amongst the elite in Europe, and Real Madrid, Manchester United, Liverpool, possibly even some others, PSG you mentioned earlier. I mean, he's young, he's French, he's playing in Liga, of course PSG are interested, but all of those clubs are clearly looking at it going, we have to at least throw our hat into that particular ring.
Absolutely. It just appears, Chloe, then to just put a bow on this one, Liverpool and Man United have made it clear to the player and to his agent and to Lille, listen, we're interested. Let Real Madrid have the conversations, and if it doesn't work, get on the phone to us. And in that case, it becomes a battle between everyone else, because PSG are involved. Like, if you had to guess the odds on Leny Yoro joining Liverpool at this moment in time, they feel slim, albeit maybe better than we all thought they were 24 hours ago, because if David Ornstein's reporting it's usually true. Is that kind of how you feel too? Yeah,
and look, the Manchester United were always going to be interested in him because it's Manchester United, and they'll throw absolutely loads of money at the lad. And PSG, it just feels like every player who's played for Monaco or Lille who's been half sound ends up at PSG in the end. The fact that Liverpool are there, hopefully, we're the outsiders in terms of, you come to us, we've got a brilliant team so far, but we're building something new with it on a slot, and you can be one of the foundations and the puzzle pieces. We will build around you, and yeah, hopefully something falls through with Real Madrid and we get lucky for once, but it is unlikely. But at least it's a really top quality player that Liverpool are interested in and have made it aware, so that if anything does happen, Liverpool are there to hopefully sweep up and get him.
Yeah, it feels like that's where we're heading towards. I suppose, Chloe, take some heart from the fact that
Liverpool are doing something.
But also, they're active now, because we know that the talks are ongoing. Because
there's money there to spend as well, clearly, because that's 50-60 million pound worth of footballers. So.
And if we were also looking at a centre back and he wasn't, he was just the one that we'd
an opportunistic one.
You've got to for that price. Then clearly, we all know we put 110 down for Caicedo. We know the money's there. It'd be stupid of us to not know that. But the fact that he's not a priority, but he's a chance signing of, you need him, because what happens if he becomes unbelievable? That's really good from Liverpool's perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. We'll keep an eye on that one as the Leny Yoro story develops.
Real Madrid could just do one.
Well, apparently, the latest is Real Madrid have apparently asked him to be patient, because while you negotiate a fee, and listen, it feels like he wants to go there. So we'll see how that all pans out in the summer. Let's move on then, Dan and Chloe. Let's talk about Jeremy Frimpong. This story came out a few days ago from Sport Bild. To give you guys the background at home, reports in Spain suggest Barcelona and obviously Hansi Flick want to sign Bayer Leverkusen stars Jeremy Frimpong. However, the offer that they've apparently suggested is quite low. Sport Bild have reported that, and then they've gone on to say, and I'm just going to read this word for word, according to Sport Bild information. Oh, by the way, I say word for word, I've Google translated, so apologies if it's a bit of broken English at time. In addition to Barca, Liverpool FC and Man United from the Premier League are also interested in the Dutchman, German record champions FC Bayern. I mean, German record, not the champions, are they? Just Bayer Leverkusen the champions. That's
Did he mean record champions, like in terms of how many times?
Yeah, I just feel like that was unnecessary. It feels like Sport Bild are big on Bayern Munich up there. Anyway,
that is literally what they do.
Yeah, that's their job. Yeah. Bayern Munich are said to have inquired too. However, talk did not make any progress. This interest in Frimpong is not unexpected. The fullback scored 9 goals and had 7 assists in the Bundesliga last season, together with his partner on the left, Alejandro Grimaldo. He was one of the best wing players in the world last season, and was one of the reasons for Leverkusen's successful season. So there we have it. The interesting thing with this one, Dan, I'll start with you, don't mind, is there was a release clause, but that expired today. So that was quite low as well. So if I needed like 40 million euros, if Liverpool wanted to get this done on the cheap, today was the day to do it. And obviously, unless something happened in the next 6 hours or something, then that isn't going to be the case. So what are your thoughts on the Frimpong stuff? Do you think it's legit? Can you see Liverpool being in and around that type of player or not?
There's obviously loads of reasons to be. You just named a lot of them there in the past minute or so, because, you know, the numbers speak for themselves. The season he had last year speaks for itself. He is a phenomenal footballer, very, very attack-minded for somebody who was nominally a right-back last season for Bayer Leverkusen. What was a very attack-minded Xabi Alonso's side, of course. His numbers are ridiculous. Like I say, he got more goals and assists than the ones you mentioned, because Europa League he was contributing throughout. Obviously, they won the German Cup as well, the DFB Pokal. So, genuinely incredible season, obviously away with the Dutch national team now. I think he plays an even more advanced role for them. So loads and loads of qualities, loads and loads of things to like. Yeah, you're right in terms of the release clause. If Liverpool were, you know, desperate to get it over the line, they might have looked to do it on the opening day of the window, which of course was today. That isn't going to materialise clearly. I can't sort of overlook the position and whether Liverpool are willing to. And I guess also comes back to what we mentioned a moment ago with Leny Yoro. If we see it as such an obvious signing to make, doesn't really matter where he plays, just get him through the door. Maybe, but I don't see Frimpong as quite being that. Obviously, he's older than Leny Yoro for the kickoff. Like, so yeah, right back, stroke right winger, maybe as a bit of a Mo Salah understudy stroke replacement long term, possibly. I don't quite see him as that myself. So with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and albeit we don't quite know where his future lies in terms of position, if we're looking to move into midfield, then Frimpong definitely becomes an option. Conor Bradley in his, you know, meteoric rise last season, he's got to be in this conversation as well. So because I see it as such a non-priority position, I struggle to sort of make peace with the fact that we could end up spending 60, 70 upwards million on that footballer. So I'm not quite sure.
The only counter argument would be, Chloe, is that Liverpool see him like the Dutch national team see him as a forward. Like, you know, like he played for Holland the other day and he played right hand side of a front three. Liverpool do him again. We'll see what Arne Slot does, but or like Dan says, rather Arne Slot, and it's just thinks Trent in midfield. Now they're the two reasons how this makes sense, or it's actually a combination of both. Where if you get a lad in who is your Salah understudy / whatever you want to call it, added to the fact that if you need him to, you can play right back or right wing back as well, which is a bonus. That's the only way maybe you can get your head around if the interest is legit, as Sport Bill report. Yeah,
Jeremy Frimpong is a world-class footballer. Really like him. I love Grimaldo as well. They've been brilliant last season. However, when you could have got him for 40 mil today, spending 70 mil is a lot of money for a position for me. That's not the most needed. It's not the top priority. I mean, Trent Alexander-Arnold, if we do decide to move him into midfield, it might not go the way we all want it to go. Like, he might just be better as a right back for the main reason of, and look, people can talk defensively and about his liabilities and all of that, but if he gets more time on the ball at right back than he does in midfield, he is more useful as a right back. And sadly, you're just going to have to figure out, maybe the balance of the team is a little bit different. Maybe the way we play with the two kind of like holding pivots, maybe that helps Trent out, but he needs to play right back if that is the place where he gets the most time on the football. And you can't just go and spend 60, 70 mil on a player who you can't guarantee starts, because he's not better than Trent. He might be defensively, but he's certainly not at every other thing. And you're trampling on Conor Bradley's potential improvement and development, which is massive, by the way. Like, he was brilliant last season for us, and it was to a point where he was in and no one spoke about Trent. No. And when Trent comes back, you go, oh my word, like, how didn't we speak about him? But it was just because Conor Bradley, you'd had so much confidence in the lad. And on top of that, you've got to keep Joe Gomez happy if you want him around, and him, if Trent does move into midfield, it's got to mean that he's the backup and switches and alternates with Conor Bradley, because you can't, him at his young age and his body, you don't want to do what you did with Stefan Bajcetic and lob him in the deep end and make him get an injury like that. So for me, I love the player. I love Jeremy Frimpong. I don't think he's good enough to be an understudy to Mo Salah. That's just how I see it further up the pitch. I think he's a really good footballer, and what he's been doing in Xabi Alonso's system is brilliant, but as an out-and-out right winger, I'm not sure if he's got the trickery there. That, I mean, we say that Mo Salah, look, he's not the most technically brilliant footballer, but my word, he can turn defenders inside out. And for me, it's just a lot of money for a position that you're not 100% sure what you're going to do with first, and B, you don't know whether you actually do need someone like Jeremy Frimpong to play it. And right wing, I'd rather you go and get the likes of Bakayoko we spoke about last week.
So, yeah, it will come back down again. I'm just looking at the stats here in his career so far. 122 games as a right back, 96 as a right midfielder, according to Transfermarkt. So he has done a bit of both.
Yeah.
He's clearly adept at doing both. But even as a midfielder or a right winger, they class them as a little bit different, of course. Combined 102 games either as a right midfielder or right winger, scoring 24 goals, getting 23 assists. It's not bad.
That's really good.
And at his age as well, he's quite young. It might just be that, well, there's a lad here who he can get enough games because he can do a few jobs. We've seen the versatility. The value of versatility last season with someone like a Joe Gomez, someone like a Harvey Elliott. You're not always going to play right wing because Mo's here, at least for another year, and Mo's going to play all the time. Probably more in Europe as well this season because he was quite happy to sit Europa League games out. Don't know if he's going to be happy to sit Champions League games out, and whether the new manager wants to pick him. I don't know. I'm just trying to square in my head. If Liverpool's interest is real, why is it real? And that's where I've landed to. The versatility, the age. And also, he's just really good at football.
His ability definitely comes into that conversation. Yeah, absolutely. I wonder how many of them games just sort of prior to his Leverkusen, I think he was at Celtic before, man, wasn't he? Came through
he was more right back at Celtic.
Was he's played a lot of right back there? Okay, so yeah, listen, ultimately, absolutely. And players change all the time, don't they? They find their natural position, they find where suits them best in different systems, different styles, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's not out of the realms of possibility whatsoever. My overriding feeling is that because it's so much money and Liverpool, we know we're not exactly the most lavish spenders in world football. We don't quite know what the kitty is this summer, of course, but I just see it as priority positions. If you were to get your centre-half boxed and maybe, I don't know, your number 6, if you want to have that conversation boxed, then possibly even your left winger, depending on what happens there, and then you've still got money left over, then yeah, of course, by all means, but other than that, I don't see how you walk into Michael Edwards' office, Julian Ward, Richard Hughes, and your first meeting, you sit down and go, right, what's the first marquee signing we're going to make this summer? I don't see how you fall up on Frimpong, albeit in terms of his quality and his class, his ability, etc., etc., etc. He 100% could play for Liverpool in any of these positions that we're talking about. I just think there's more important areas to address first.
I'm just looking on again, Transfermarkt. It isn't always exact in terms
it's the one though.
It's usually pretty good. Yeah. Like most of they class a lot of what he did last year at Leverkusen as like playing more as a right midfielder than a right back. So that's where those numbers are coming from. And he's done well there. He did a little bit of it for Celtic as well. Chloe.
He's quality.
And also the age. And they said the reporting build was at the €40 million, like 34 million quid release clause expired today.
I'd have been all over that.
If that was another month, 100%. Like that is the player
who knows these things? It might just be that's what it costs to get him out. We just don't know, do we?
Oh, if we were talking that sort of thing, we're not even having a conversation.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah, and it's silly because it's not our money, but at the same time, we have to think like this as football fans because that's just how football works.
Especially when if the 42 that was supposed about Leny Yoro, if Real Madrid ended up getting him, well, you've got 40 million to go and buy another superstar player, and Jeremy Frimpong is that. If you're talking 40 mil in another month's time, like there is no doubt that Liverpool should be in and around looking at that. It's the fact that the 40 mil ends today, which means surely Leverkusen are going to go, right, 65 to 70 everyone, because the further you get into the transfer window, the less time they have to go and replace him. And also you'd imagine they've got Florian Wirtz, they've got Grimaldo, they've got Frimpong, there's a load of people. Is it No, Garassi doesn't play for them anymore.
No, he's Stuttgart.
But they've got enough players there where there are a load of interest and should be a load of Jonathan Tah's off, probably.
He's probably the one. Well, they're going to sell one, possibly two big players, because unfortunately for Bayer Leverkusen, as much as they were outstanding last season and obviously win the league, just missed out on what would have been the absolute perfect invincible season of all time, wouldn't it? But yeah, unfortunately, it's almost inevitable that he will get picked apart. It's already started, hasn't it, with Bayern Munich? But there is, just for Liverpool's perspective, there is obviously this new data-driven approach now. We don't quite know what that's going to look like. I suppose it is hard to have conversations in the round. We've seen it in a previous incarnation where obviously Michael Edwards and Julian Ward, but it wouldn't shock me if what was a little bit outside the box, because there is precedent for this type of transfer, and that would be it, because we're all sitting here, I think all pretty much agree in the fact that it doesn't feel like the perfect fit in terms of position, but because of this is a new look Liverpool, you just never know.
No. We spoke before about Leny Yoro maybe favouring Real Madrid in his thoughts about Liverpool. Can I interest you in an older quote from Jeremy Frimpong?
So, he played for City, did he not?
Yeah, as a kid.
As a kid, there with Celtic. Here's a quote from him. When asked by Dutch outlet Ziggo Sport about moving to Merseyside, had this earlier this year, by the way, this wasn't very recently.
I remember this.
Frimpong said, Liverpool, great club with history, that would be great. Who knows what the future will bring? So if you're playing, wants to play for Liverpool, if that's one of your tick lists, which it probably should be, there's at least there's something close, because Leverkusen had an unbelievable season. Obviously they did. They are going to lose a couple of players. That's just the fact. They can't pay the wages, unfortunately. And I know they've got Champions League money, and that's brilliant. And I wish this wasn't the case in footy sometimes, but it is what it is. And sometimes we benefit and sometimes we lose out from this. It just depends where you are on the food chain, for lack of a better phrase. My guess is if you're them, you're desperate to keep Florian Wirtz. That has to be priority number one. After that, Frimpong might be in this mix, but maybe a Grimaldo, maybe Boniface, whatever it is.
Boniface, that's the lads I was thinking of.
It could be any of them. Oh, sorry, I should have helped you out there.
Sorry,
before. My European knowledge is better than yours for a change.
Is Garassi's stats really good?
He's boss.
Yeah, that's why he popped up to me. Yeah, I've been looking at his stats.
If they're thinking if someone's got to go, that's the reason. Again,
what's his age? Sorry, like
23.
Yeah. It's. If they're going to have to lose someone, I'm trying to phrase this of how Liverpool get him on a fee that we think is acceptable-ish. Yeah. Because the only thing that keeps nagging in the back of my head is now, if Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes really, really wanted Jeremy Frimpong, that release clause would have been met by now. And I know he's away at the Euros, and that definitely complicates things, but you think they'd have done it by now, unless someone thinks, well, actually, we know the fee's only this anyway, down the line, it's not that big a deal. But that's why I'm starting to think it probably would have happened already if it was going to happen. Is that fair enough? Yeah,
I think that's 100% correct. And obviously the Euros does affect it, because, you put 40 mil down on the table for Jeremy Frimpong, and then he gets an injury and he's not available for the first couple of months of the season. To Liverpool, that's a big thing. To any club, that's a big thing, by the way.
If you're Ronald Koeman, the last thing you want is one of your players negotiating a transfer 2 days before the Euro starts. Like,
it does happen though.
It can happen, but I think most international managers would ban it.
They prefer it not to, I could imagine.
I know Luis Diaz did something similar anyway. He come out of
and it's only Germany, so Liverpool could easily get people.
No, I agree. I'm just thinking if I'm Ronald Koeman, I wouldn't let that happen. And we've heard stories in the past of managers refusing to. Why am I going to let you do a medical? Now you might get injured. Yeah. So that's where.
And also, look, I don't have any affiliation to England. Sorry, I really don't. But Jeremy Frimpong will absolutely want to be one of the main lads at this Euros, and he actually probably will be focusing on that more than anything, because he's got Xabi Alonso, who's just took him to a Europa League final and won them the league last season and the Pokal. So there's no way that, with Vincent Kompany coming in, you don't really know what to expect at Bayern. Yet they're going to take one of your best players in Jonathan Tah, because that's what happens in that league. But I reckon he wouldn't mind staying at Leverkusen as well. I think Ronaldo's a little bit older, if I'm correct. He's older than Frimpong, which makes Frimpong more of a saleable asset in my head, because you're paying for more years. maybe not. Maybe someone else thinks differently.
As well, to be honest.
Yeah, he is. But Grimaldo's sick as well.
He is good, don't get me wrong, with Frimpongs.
But it's good that at least he likes the club. He knows of us. And also, I've seen videos and interviews of him, and he just seems proper sound. Like, he just seems lovely. He can have a bit of banter with you. And he's got some, like, he knows his football, doesn't he, with his knowledge. So, I'd love to sign him if it was for 40 mil, but it doesn't seem like something that Liverpool need to attack straight away.
Let's
just quickly on that, sorry to say, if we're not aware of Liverpool's transfer kitty, we're not privy to that information. If it was like 300 million for this summer, like that completely changes the goalpost and the landscape of this conversation again. I think we're all working on the premise that it'll be similar to what it has been more recently, like 150 to 200, maybe add some player sales in amongst it as well. So we're all trying to think how Liverpool have been in the past few years, whereas if it was above and beyond that, because we're back in the Champions League, it's Taylor Swift money's kicking in and all that sort of stuff. You never know, but that makes the Frimpong situation completely different.
The more hats that are getting sold down.
Look, Gomez was apparently last week Bayern wanted Gomez, so if Gomez left, that might be important as well, because he is basically your backup right back with him and Conor Bradley, but he would become your backup right back, or with how good he plays. You'd interchange those two, and Trent plays in midfield. And if you lose, I mean, I saw there, I think Frimpong played a couple of games at left back on that as well. So if you do lose the likes of Joe Gomez to Bayern Munich, which I hope we don't, but if we did, then Jeremy Frimpong comes a bit more like a transfer that you could see happen right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Keep an eye out again all over the socials and stuff. If anything does happen, we will talk about it here on the show. Good transition, Chloe. You've just spoke about Joe Gomez. We might as well move into it straight away then.
Sorry, ruined it for everyone.
No, you didn't.
No, that was a compliment.
Segueing is...
Now you've ruined it. It was completely fine until you said that. But anyway, let's get back on it. Vincent Kompany targets Liverpool defender Joe Gomez as part of his Bayern Munich rebuild, Dan. This is according to a report from David Anderson of the Mirror. It's clear Bayern are in for centre-backs. They've just signed one. They're being linked to another in Jonathan Tah. Yeah. And now Vincent Kompany is reportedly after another one in Joe Gomez, albeit, it's worth mentioning, Joe Gomez isn't just a centre-back. As we found out, much to our pleasure last season, he can do a number of jobs and he can do them well. I spoke to Ian Doyle about this on Journal Insight the other day, and I'd love to know your thoughts on it, is that the only way you could see this happening really from a Joe Gomez point of view is if he just decides, I am sick of being the bridesmaid. Can I just go and be the bride somewhere? If that's the case, is Bayern Munich the place where he can do that? Is he better than what they've got and what they're looking to sign? I'd argue he's probably better than Eric Dyer.
So don't need to argue that.
So I'm looking at this from a Joe Gomez point of view. If you're looking to be a first team player, is a move to Bayern the one for you? Because otherwise, what are you leaving Liverpool for?
No, listen, from Joe Gomez's standpoint, I can absolutely see the merit in that transfer 100%, yeah, because it almost feels silly to say it, and I've been mulling it over for the past 30 seconds in my head, but he's not guaranteed the Bundesliga title. Clearly, if you go to Bayern Munich, as Bayer Leverkusen just proved, but you'd imagine Bayern Munich would come back with a hell of an effort to try and win
half
that.
Half a Bayer Leverkusen.
Well, exactly,
Leverkusen team.
That might help as well, yeah. I'm not sure the manager's going to do any favours in that particular sphere, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, silverware, let's put it that way. He's got a good old chance to win some more silverware. And obviously Bayern Munich seems to be sort of focusing on English players. Obviously they got the Harry Kane deal over the line, Eric Dyer, as you mentioned. There's a big link to Kieran Trippier at one point as well. So there's clearly a push to get more English players over there. Clearly see some benefit in that. So yeah, from Joe Gomez's standpoint, I can absolutely see why he'd be keen on that move. Munich's a boss place to live. It's a amongst the Europe's elite in terms of calibre again, in terms of stature. So he's not exactly making a downward step from Liverpool to Bayern Munich if you really want to sort of take your Liverpool tinted glasses off and look at it in that way. So yeah, rich history, all that sort of stuff. So, and as you mentioned, more football. But having said that, I think I'm right in saying he played over 50 times last season for Liverpool. Not all of them would have been 90 minutes, not all of them would have been started, of course, but that's a lot of football. And there's a lot more football that's been playing recently. And he could look at it the other way a little bit as well and say, well, I've had injury-plagued seasons down the years now, and Liverpool have always stuck by me. They've seen me through some hard times, they've seen me through rehabs and got me back up and running, and then they've given me this 50-odd game season. So albeit, loyalty is lacking in football a little bit, there'll definitely be some of that in Joe Gomez. He's been here 9 years now, now, I think I'm right in saying, our longest serving player. So I can definitely see the merits and the positives when they'd be looking to move to Bayern. But from a Liverpool point of view, non-starter. Absolute non-starter for me. I don't even know why we consider selling him. Obviously, he gets to a fee whereby it's just
only if he
silly
asks.
money.
Well, if he asks to go, if he comes to Arne Slot's, Chloe, and says, "Listen, I was the only one here before Jurgen. Jurgen's gone. I really just want, like what James Milner did to Man City. I really just want to go and play centre mid. Is what James Milner told Man City before he left. Again, contract situation was a little bit different. If Joe Gomez comes to Arne Slot and says, "I'm sick of legging up and down the wing. I just want to go and be a centre-back. I'm good enough. I should be England's starting centre-back at these Euros alongside John Stones, and I'm not because I haven't played there enough. I want to go." That's when you put on, that's the only way I could see this really, you put it on Liverpool toes, and with all due respect, Arne Slot doesn't know him anyway, and it's one of them. I'm sure we'd love to keep him. I'd love to keep him. Liverpool, I think, should be rejecting any bids that come in. But if Joe Gomez wants to go, what you do?
Yeah, it's a tough one because Arne Slot will also sit there and say, well, I don't know what you play like, mate, so you might not be England's number one right now, but you could actually play alongside Virgil van Dijk.
Do you think, Chloe, sorry, I do apologise for interrupting. Do you see Joe Gomez maybe being centre-back for Liverpool next season?
No, I don't personally. I don't know if that's his best position anymore.
Okay.
But what I will say is he's now into the peak years of his career. He's just had his what feels like one of his first seasons where he's not been plagued with injuries, and he was our unsung hero. The football he played was absolutely incredible, and we've seen from time to time, especially when we were going for when we won the Champions League and then we won the league. In those seasons when he played centre half, he was supreme alongside Virgil van Dijk. We've saw what Quansah can do, and we all think he's class. But also, once again, you want to make him. You don't want to throw the lad again into the deep end, and if all the pressure gets a little bit too much, causing a bit of worry for Quansah. I think Joe Gomez is brilliant. I think he's versatile. He's great at right back. He offers something different to Trent in terms of Trent's always a bit more attacking minded, and I like that. He's gambling. It's what he's being told to do. He's what he's best at. Joe Gomez is a bit more, actually, lads, I'm not as influential up that half of the pitch. I'm going to think defensively what to do first. He played CDM at times when we really needed him to last season. So he's so versatile. He was so impressive. The problem is I if he does come to Arne Slot and say that, Arne Slot surely got to say, well, let me just see what you like in pre-season. Like, I need to see a bit more of you, because he might not be a starting centre half, but who knows with Arne Slot? I don't know what Arne Slot's going to do. And if he has an impressive pre-season, he might start. It doesn't mean he's going to be our main centre-half alongside Virgil van Dijk for the entire season, but he might start out that way, especially if Ibu Konate doesn't start getting himself back together. And if Arne Slot doesn't feel confident putting a young centre-half in, which I hope he is, but if he doesn't, then Gomez becomes even more important. I don't think you can let him go for me. I mean, there will be a price at which I will say, right, if they offer me that much, then yeah, sure. But that price would have to be substantial because I think he's so important to this team, especially if we lose the likes of Costas, especially with the fact that who knows if Trent goes into midfield. All of these things need to be assessed before we let go of Joe Gomez. And also, it was rumoured the start of last season that he wasn't happy not playing, and he actually might have wanted to leave. But now he's actually got back. He's got back into the squad, and he's, a player who at times I started before I started Andy Robbo. I started before I started Trent for the balance of the team. So yeah, it'd be hard to let Joe Gomez go because of what he's done for us and how versatile he is. But like you said there, he deserves to go and go in the Bundesliga where it's a little bit easier. They're trying to get rid of De Ligt. That Kim Min-jae, every time I've seen him, has been absolutely woeful.
It's not worked, does it?
And Eric Dyer, he's better than Eric Dyer. So
Upamecano's doing one. Yeah. They've signed a few others, but we'll keep an eye on the Gomez stuff. Hopefully he stays, but that's that one for now. Fingers crossed.
What's the price that you'd let him go for, Dan?
Good question. I think if you get upwards of 40,
you've probably got to accept that.
I think we're in a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's fair, but hopefully we don't get to see that anyway for now. Anyway, we'll keep tabs on that one. I did ask on Twitter earlier today for any names, any links that you'd like us to discuss on the show at LFC Room 1. It's I think the name is Kiki or Keke. I'm not sure. What would you say Keke is?
Keke.
Kiki.
That's how
it reminds me of that Drake song. I'm not going to sing it.
Anyway, he just wrote Olise ? Now we did speak a lot, Dan, about Olise last week. Since then, it's emerged. Chelsea have made contact. The player Michael Olise is looking potentially to move on. There's talk of a release clause that's only active to Champions League clubs, which
sensational.
Which is, but
it's good news.
It's good news. It is, but also, I'm guessing if Chelsea matched that fee, they'd probably just let them have it anyway. If they're going to sell him for that much money, let the player choose, kind of stuff. There were also reports that he's desperate to play Champions League footy, so that makes things there for him. But again, it feels like Liverpool are not the front runners for Michael Olise. It feels like Chelsea are the ones. Maybe, am I reading that wrong?
No, I think that's probably a fair assessment of the situation, to be honest with you, especially consider what happened last summer as well. It's no great shock, any of this, actually. And I think we're all kind of expecting. Palace have been one of the more active clubs already in the window, actually. They've made a couple of transfers, so they're clearly gearing themselves up, just for a proper summer and really double down on what they've got, or they're gearing themselves up for potential outgoing. And I imagine it's the latter of the two. Always feels like they're on the verge of selling somebody big, whether it be Eze or Olise, and I think it's going to be Olise by looks of it. Chelsea,
it might be both. Sorry, mate.
It could
They both got release clauses. They might not have a choice.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Yeah, they'll have to really go somewhere in the market to think about replacing those two. Olise, we spoke a lot about him last week, as you mentioned. A big fan of his. I think he ticks a lot of boxes in terms of the profile of player Liverpool we're looking for. We said it, I think, last week as well. Very Michael Edwards style signing, really. So it wouldn't shock me whatsoever if Liverpool were to enter the market into this one. In terms of the Chelsea frontrunners tag, possibly, but I can only really see the London factor in that, as crazy as that may be, because I don't understand why you choose Chelsea over there. I mean, but Liverpool aren't exactly, not paying the lads well either.
Yeah, but we're not paying them what they're paying Mudryk, probably.
But they're only paying him that to get them to the football club by and large. And Olise, you'd like to imagine, would have, longer sighted vision than that, and he'd look at the Liverpool project and the way we've conducted ourselves in recent years.
I think you're overestimating footballers. I've seen all the footballers who went to Chelsea last year. I don't think they.
Yeah, but no, I don't believe. Maybe it's.
He stayed at Palace last season. Maybe that helps you.
Yeah, I just think some footballers should look at the bigger picture, not just look at the paycheck at the end of it and be like, "Well, I've seen enough footballers go to Chelsea and get chewed up and spat out. I'm not going to be one of them." You mentioned there he has aspirations and desires to play Champions League football. Maybe he sees the longer term thing and thinks, "I want to be the best footballer in the world, not just go to Chelsea and be a mess."
Yeah, you might be able to be both. Cole Palmer's proven like it can work as well.
Yeah, it's a broken clock twice a day.
Maybe. The next one, next story that you guys asked to speak about, Jack Archer, Chloe asked us to speak about someone they've highlighted it for you. Joao Neves, a player you love. I think it's worth mentioning. So let me just bring. This is Sport Witness who have kindly what's the word? Translated is the word I'm looking for there. According to Portuguese newspaper Correio de Manhã, I'm going to
sounds of Portuguese.
It'll do. It's the Scousest Portuguese ever. It today highlighted Liverpool's interest in Benfica star Joao Neves. It's said that the Reds have set the midfielder as a priority reinforcement for next season after watching him many times, and they plan to advance their bid in the coming days. The outlet writes that Liverpool know Neves very well from their scouting work, plus what they've heard from his national teammate Diogo Jota.
The real
so there's a lot of, I don't know, I mean, listen, I'm not going to call this like it isn't David Ornstein report on this, you know what I mean, with all due respect to
Portuguese David Ornstein.
Correio de Manhã.
Davide Ornsteino.
I mean, that might be xenophobic, I'm not sure. We'll hurriedly move along. There's got to be like a shot. Yeah, anyway, it's fine. You love the player, Chloe. I think it's fair to say. Liverpool, if they're looking for upgrading midfield, we don't know if they are yet. He's 19 years old. If this could, again, I always try and connect. If this was going to happen, why? This could fall into the Lenny Yoro suggestion of he's just that good and he's available. we just go and buy him? Because, I mean, the release clause is set to be somewhere like 120 million euro. It's a massive amount of money. Liverpool just smashing their transfer record. They proved last season, by all accounts, they were willing to do it for one midfielder, albeit one with more experience, of course. I like... The idea of it all sounds great. That fee is just one that makes you think, wow. Do we see Liverpool spending over £100 million on a 19-year-old? I mean, they were going to do it for Jude Bellingham. Did they think Joao Neves is that good? I don't know.
As a player, I really, really like him. I think he's top quality. I watched him for Portugal the other day when they beat Ireland, and like, he's so tiny, like he's so short, but he's so good on the ball. And the fact that he's 19 and he's playing for Portugal's side, bear in mind, Portugal have some quality players. Like, I haven't even thought about them potentially winning the Euros. Like, I haven't even gave them a second chance in my head. But then you look individually through their squad and you go, wow, like they're full. Like, we talk about players who centre halves and that who are being linked everywhere. Antonio Silva and Asio, they've got them two in there. So the fact that he's 19 and he's playing for their national squad, and not just playing and being a substitute, like, he's starting at the base of their midfield. And that tells you everything you need to know about how good he is. He's playing alongside, you know, your Bruno Fernandes, your Bernardo Silvas. He's playing alongside those kind of players. And yeah, I think he's top quality. 100 million though, like, it's just ludicrous, these numbers.
I suppose, Clodo, it's worth mentioning, like, you can get players out of Benfica lower than their release clause. Liverpool show, like, they spent a lot to get Darwin Núñez, but also
Enzo Fernandez, they went for over 100 million. 105 maybe.
Bit older,
and at a time of the season where they probably weren't as keen to let him go.
Yeah,
it's whatever it is, Dan. It's going to be a massive amount of money. Yeah. Again, going back to build the transfer to Liverpool, it would have to be Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes, the scouts, all that going, this lad is that good. That, again, the reporting around Leny Yoro is he's an exception. They think he's that good. They're willing, regardless of other deals, they would just like to sign him. There could be a possibility they see Joao Neves in the same light, given if you're a teenager starting at every for Benfica, now you're going to be, you know, your Porto centre mid alongside the likes of Fernandes, you've got Jota, you've got your Cristiano Ronaldo in that team, a team who expected to win. This isn't like a lad, with all due respect, playing for a fringe team of the Euros who are just going for a good time. Portugal, there's expectations that Portugal go and win this tournament, and they've got other players who he's keeping out the team. It might just be that he's that good, and therefore you can get to a world where maybe you think, actually, I can see why Liverpool would like it, even if it is a really, really high transfer fee.
Yeah, it would have to be, wouldn't it? You'd have to view him in a similar sort of light to what you view Leny Yoro.
And you can see the world that he could, because he's shown his ability.
And Liverpool, as you mentioned, as someone mentioned earlier, have shown they're willing to splash out that sort of cash if they see it as a transformational signing, if you see the player as a generational type talent, and Neves could well be that. And I think he'd have to be, to be honest with you, because as you mentioned there, for so young and such an eye-watering fee, you know, you're looking at, you can't miss, can you, basically, in that transfer. You know, we're not Chelsea, whereby Chelsea, you know, Enzo Fernandez, has he really been that much of a success story? You'd probably argue not. Does it matter to them at 100 million? Not really. Liverpool don't spend that sort of money unless it's an absolute sure thing. And with somebody like Neves as well, the problem there may be Jude Bellingham, wherever he went in world football, felt like he just hit the ground running. He's primed. He's played enough football. He's got enough experience under his belt.
He's got the build as well.
And yeah, exactly. That helps. It helps a hell of a lot. Absolutely. He's got the physicality. He's ready for it. He's been playing Championship and League One football for most of his adult life. So he was always going to just be a superstar wherever. I'm not sure Neves is exactly that. Certainly if he came to the Premier League, and it might be wrong because he's playing international football, but again, that feels slightly different to Premier League stuff. So I think Liverpool would view him as one for the future and a bit of a project, and maybe you can integrate him slowly. I don't think he'd come in and from day one be the answer to Liverpool's need of a DM or need of a destroyer, because A, he hasn't got the bill for that. He doesn't seem like that type of player anyway. And B, he is still so young and still relatively wet behind the ears. I don't think you're spending that money on the finished article.
But the same could be said of Yoro. If Liverpool signed Leny Yoro tomorrow, if Liverpool signed Leny Yoro tomorrow, that's funny, yeah, it's class. He doesn't start the season as centre back for Liverpool. He's probably fourth choice, and that's the thing. It might, if they're willing.
I think he's closer, by the way.
Maybe, but he probably is. Again, that's physicality, and I understand that. But it feels like with that transfer, they're willing to get someone in now who they think can be good. if they think Joao Neves is good enough, and he should be good enough to play Premier League footy, he probably will play Premier League footy at some point, then you do it. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, even if it's something like, if it's just getting a good lad in and he takes a year or two just in and around it before he eventually takes over, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, and I mean, we've got a lot less work to do this season than we did last summer, and yet we were still doing all that, and we're willing to spend 110 million on Caicedo. So yeah, clearly there are signs there. Maybe because it didn't happen, in my head it just won't happen again, but there's just something like Leny Yoro. If you sign him and he goes on to be world class, and Real Madrid come in for him again, because, you know, how many years ago was it when Coutinho decided to leave Liverpool? And I'm not saying Liverpool will be back to that, but I can't ensure what we're like in the next several years. Like, I don't know what to expect from Liverpool next season. I'm hoping we're sound and, you know, a boss football side, but things might not go the way you always plan or hope to, and who knows. It just, for me, it's less of a risk. If you go for Leny Yoro and he turns out to be world class, well, great, you've got him, but not just have you got him, you can sell him for you know, a really good price and then reinvest. And sadly, our model is, you know, a bit like Help to Buy over here. We love to sell our players and then reinvest the money. That's what we do. So there's just less of a risk. I hope that we're not that team where we have to sell at a massive market. No, we haven't. But once again, I knew what to expect every season from Liverpool then. Everything's different now, and even though we've got great players and a manager who I think I will like and it looks to be good enough, you just don't know how things will pan out, sadly. So for me, Leny Yoro is a lot less of a risk, where, you know, you're looking at a midfielder who, for a lot of that, there's so much of an engine room in that midfield. A midfielder's got to do so much more running. You know, more games like that take a toll on your body. You know, one big injury in a midfielder. I mean, I say that, you know, centre-halves don't come back all the time when you get a massive injury. Just 100 mil for a 19-year-old, and I've just said how much I love him as a footballer. It just seems a lot, and something that Liverpool
might not
just
be
would
that,
not do.
Well stocked as well.
It's worth mentioning, it might not be that, Dan, I suppose. Yeah. Liverpool are well stocked in midfield. That's the other thing. Are they even in for one?
Stefan is in this conversation as well.
He absolutely is. I'm trying to think if they went for him. I find it interesting that Wikipedia says he's 5'9", same as Alexis McAllister.
Absolutely not.
And he's a
day.
DM.
He was
DM. Say again.
Defensive midfielder as well.
Yeah. I'm not sure he's 5'9". You know, I think
he's small.
I think someone might have edited his wiki. He looks a little bit smaller. He doesn't look. I mean, I might be wrong. I've never seen them together, but he doesn't look the same height as Alexis McAllister to me. He looks a bit.
No, you know what? McAllister wasn't. I met him, and I mean, he's not that small. You know,
he's 5'.
Yeah, he didn't come across that small. Anyway, no, maybe not. And again, I'll come back to what I said a moment ago. Like, in terms of what you sort of imagine in your mind's eye as being sort of the archetypal DM, he doesn't really fit that mold, does he? That's not to say it doesn't work, because Javier Mascherano, you know, Claude Makélélé and N'Golo Kante, none of those three were exactly monsters among men. They weren't giants, so you can do it in a different way. But yeah, I think Chloe is right, really, in what she says. It feels like one hell of a gamble. And again, it kind of goes completely against what we were saying about Leny Yoro before, but Leny Yoro feels like a more surefire thing, and we know centre-back is an area whereby Liverpool probably do need reinforcements, maybe even one or two. So it's not a crazy transfer, but spending 100 million on a 19-year-old now in an area whereby we've got absolutely loads of cover and loads of options, and we've got what we probably perceive, albeit he's had a really upsetting and really disappointing 12 months, and someone like Stefan Bajcetic, I just don't know whether Liverpool will be brazen enough and bold enough and willing enough to take the risk on someone whereby it may well come back to bite you on the arse.
Yeah.
But also, you know, we speak about DMs and them being small and all that, but like, if you play this double pivot,
it's a different role.
It's a different role, and he on the ball he's so good as well. And I just picture him in like 3 years being at Manchester City, and that would kill me
in League One.
Hopefully. But yeah, I think he's a top class footballer. You know, he'll probably go on to be world class, let's not lie. But it's just 100 mil. And look, if Liverpool put 100 mil bid in tomorrow, I would be so excited about that.
Oh, mate, the content.
Like,
I made up
no one expected Caicedo.
Happy days.
Caicedo came out of nowhere, and like, I didn't get to sleep at all that night, because I was like, oh my God, they've just announced this at like 12. What's going on? So if that happened, I would be over the moon. But I also just don't don't see that happening.
Okay, that's fair enough. We'll keep an eye on the Joao Neves stuff as well, and we'll go from there very, very quickly. Last one from at TJ93 then. Any suggestions that Liverpool could sign a left back this summer? He mentions the likes of like Nori from Wolves, Ian Matson, of course. Then you could also include someone like a Hincapié, Inacio or Pacho. I lisped Inacio.
You really got that, yeah? That took me by surprise.
I didn't mean it. Inacio, I lisped. It was unintentional.
But it worked so well.
It did work, but it was unintentional. Yeah. I was Gonzalo Inacio. I struggle with that. I'm not trying to...
You said Hincapié correctly now?
You caught me off guard with both, I'll be honest.
It is Hincapié, isn't it?
Yeah, someone asked me how to... Was it not you who asked me how to say that last week?
It is Hincapié, isn't
Somebody's been saying Hincapié, I can't remember what it was.
All right, well, anyway, I do apologise. That was an unintentional lisp. That wasn't me trying to be... trying to go back to our Portuguese David Ornstein before. No, that was just me
and also
saying a word wrong.
What did we call the last player that we just spoke about? Say his name.
Joao Neves.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's okay, isn't it?
It's fine, yeah.
I know you have a bugbear about how we say Portuguese things. I'll be honest, I have a stutter and a bit of a lisp.
I think it's Neves.
Gonzalo Inacio's name, that is tough for me to say. And they come out as Inacio. I didn't even mean it. I sound like I was taking the piss, but it wasn't.
Very nice.
Anyway, left backs. Do you think Liverpool can sign a left back
Touche. Yeah, 100%. Listen, a lot of that will obviously depend on Gonzalo Inacio. You got me doing it now. On Costas Tsimikas.
His name is actually Gonzalo Inacio.
Different player. A lot of that will depend on Costas Tsimikas.
It's actually Costas Tsimikas.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And what happens there, because for what feels like the third summer in a row, I can see a world whereby Tsimikas moves on.
You're desperate for this. You're just manifesting Costas getting off.
It does feel, and even I've noticed that I've got a vendetta against Costas.
No, because you have.
I think he's so good a footballer that I want him to go and play football.
It looks like he's absolutely shattered every day.
I've not got an issue with that. I think he's so good at football.
No, you don't. Because if he was that good, you'd want him to just stay around.
Listen, every summer, I'm happy for him to stay and just be the understudy to whoever our left back is, obviously Andy Robertson, by and large. I'm fine with that, but I think he's of a time now in his career whereby age-wise, football-wise, the amount he's played, he's got loads of experience. He needs to be playing regular football week in, week out, and I can't get my head around somebody that wouldn't want to be doing that. I think he's good enough to go and do that. But he played 50 odd games again. Costas Tsimikas wasn't even in the squad back end of the season. Like, it's a different conversation for me. Anyway, that's by the by.
By the way, I want to speak to you about that. That's why I think maybe not. Because the one that we've got who's a backup couldn't even get in the squad. So what are we doing?
But we have to do something.
Even if Costas goes, you could just make Joe Gomez.
It can't be Gomez.
Why can't it be?
He's covering too many positions.
No, it doesn't have to be. That's what I'm saying. It depends on what else you sign. I don't think it's a nailed on Liverpool sign.
I think if you sign a centre half that's left footed, that could be left back.
That could be it. The beauty of Joe Gomez is the fact he covers so many positions. You can't make him your nailed on left back understudy, in my opinion. That can't be a thing.
Does this not though, Dan? If again a lot of these conversations circle around Trent Alexander-Arnold. If Trent's your right back and Conor Bradley's your backup right back, then that's absolutely fine to have Joe Gomez as your fourth or fifth choice centre back and your second choice left back. I think that's where you could just go to Costas, sell him, and use that money to invest in a midfielder or a forward potentially.
Yeah, that makes a whole load of sense. And even the way you use Trent, not just in that, but if you use him as a right back who wanders into midfield, that changes the type of left back you need as well. Because Andy Robertson was sort of becoming the third centre half, and maybe what Chloe said, being a left-footed centre back makes sense. Because if you're not going to do so much of that, and it's going to be more Conor Bradley, you want your left back to be more of a flyer who can get up and down and be the outlet, like Andy Robertson was so brilliant at and continues to be. So many moving parts and so many different sort of intricacies in and around this conversation. But for me, just as like a top line on all of this, I can 100% see a world whereby Costas Tsimikas moves on this summer and Liverpool do something in that department, because I don't think you can leave it to Joe Gomez personally. I really don't. No matter what's happening with Trent, I think Gomez is too important in too many different areas whereby you can't just rely on him to be a left back cover at any point. And also beyond that, where we go Owen Beck a little bit, Luke Chambers, Callum Scanlon. I really like all three of them. I think Scanlon in particular is one to keep an eye on, but they're a little way from being ready just yet.
I'm gonna end on a final question. That was maybe the last question. I'm gonna change it for one more. I'm gonna put on your toes, Chloe. So get thinking. This from Dave. If not Leny Yoro, what other centre-back options would you be potentially interested in? Is there anyone out there that you think I'd love him? We might have just mentioned like four of them in the last section, but
I mean, there's no one who I would be in love with for joint. Like, they're all just, like, Ignacio, I think, is sound, but his fee, I'm not sure Liverpool will go near. Leny Yoro, for me, is the one, and sadly it doesn't look like we're going to get him. Mainly for the fact that I just think, even if he's 18, so you can adapt him in any way. Like, you can still teach him, you can get him it's not like he's stuck in his ways enough where you can't do that. But also, the other thing, it feels low risk, and if he turns out unbelievable, it feels like he's a superstar in the making.
I'm thinking Mark Gay. I like Mark Gay.
I like Mark Gay a lot.
But there's a lot of money there, though, for me.
No, I don't care what the fuck the money. I'm more about he's about to start. I think he's going to start the Euros for England. It looks like he is. Why is he leaving Crystal Palace to be Liverpool's? Is he going to play straight? Is he better straight? I mean, listen, Gareth Southgate clearly thinks he's better than Quansah, so maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But that's the other way. You sign some, because I keep thinking maybe we get a young lad who's a backup. What if you just sign a belter and Quansah and Konate all of a sudden are your rotational options? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not out of the realms, is it? When you've lost someone as good, albeit injury prone as Joel Matip, and it pains me to say it, but it's just the reality of the matter, unfortunately. There's definitely a scope for getting another high quality one in there, because we had, 4 high quality ones, certainly with the emergence of Joao Quansah. I don't think Sepp Vandenberg's going to stick around much longer, so there's definitely room to incorporate another one of that sort of ilk and calibre. So yeah, Mark Gay I really like, Levi Colwill I really like as well. I think he falls into this conversation. Ignacio, as mentioned.
I don't mind Hincapié.
Hincapié by Leverkusen's an option, yeah. I have got a couple of issues with him.
See, this is what
not getting into by Leverkusen side of one of them.
I'm not set on anyone is the problem.
No.
Aside from Yoro.
Yeah.
And I've never seen him play. So.
And even then, I'm not bringing him to be my left-sided centre-half right now. Like, I'm just hoping that he turns out to be world class. And hopefully, like, when he comes in, he does hit the ground running. But I'd want someone who can potentially play left back as well, just to help me out with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Fair enough. There you go. Thanks very much. You guys at home, let us know in the comment section straight away if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, get over to social media and tweet us or at the Redmen TV. Centre-back options that you would be interested in Liverpool getting this summer. Thanks to Dan, thanks to Chloe, thanks to producer Aaron for producing this episode of the Liverpool Transfer Podcast. We'll be back with another one next Friday. See you all then.